So another really cool deck that I'm really excited
Open up! DigiPolice!
Time to go. Okay, Digi-Egg cards. With this brand new Digimon, 4 copies right here, it has a very good effect that helps the D-Brigade and the Digipolice by a lot, because when attacking once per turn, you get to return 3 cards with D-Brigade or Digipolice traits from your trash back to the top of your deck, and this Digimon gains extra 2000 DP for the turn. So you can set up for potential combos and plays, and you can set up your D-Brigades that you can potentially play from the top deck, which is really, really nice now. Very, very good dedicated egg for the entire deck. But I also like to run an extra one just because with Commandramon and D-Brigade, sometimes you go a rookie rush strategy, so you do end up like depleting a lot of eggs, especially against matchups that sort of go a little bit longer. Therefore, Pagumon is always a very good one in the end to sort of like go for as well. So 5 eggs, I like to go for this build. All right, let's get into our rookies. 4 copies of the brand new Commandramon right here. It has an on-play revealing the top 5 cards of your deck, and you get to pick one card that is Digipolice or D-Brigade from its traits and add it to your hand. Now, really important because afterwards you get to put the remaining cards either to the bottom or the top of your deck in any order. So it's very important for you to cycle your pieces and know and analyze the information that you got from it to choose and decide whether you want to put it to the top or the bottom, which is the most crucial moments when you're playing this particular deck, which I'll elaborate more in the combo segment later on as well. And then now it has a very cool inheritable, sort of like a protection, which has all turns. Once a turn when this Digimon would leave the battle area, other than by your own effect, you can actually delete one of your other Digimon that is D-Brigade in its trait specifically to prevent it from leaving. Very important, it has to be D-Brigade. It doesn't include Digipolice actually for this particular effect. So really good protection overall and very versatile, and you can kind of choose and decide when you want to use it, and you can combo and synergize with your other on deletion stuff every here now and then. Really, really good, fantastic card that you definitely need to play 4 copies of for sure. I'm super excited to let you guys know that the AVAULT store is now live, and this would not be even happening if it weren't for you guys. Thank you all for the support. We got a bunch of awesome stuff for all of you. Plus, everything is 15% off for the grand opening sale, so be sure to check it out. Then we still have 4 copies of the older Commandramon from BT4, just a really good floating capability of the on deletion, revealing top 3. You get to play one Commandramon among them, and then you place the remaining cards back to the bottom in any order right here. Really good one that you always get to float and continue cycles of Commandramon, so you can utilize as many of them as possible. And then we got 4 copies of the 2-cost Commandramon, just a really good vanilla rookie, really cheap. You can use it to sort of flood the board and play a little bit more free things, and you even like sort of play around the memory gauge because of its 2 memory. 3000 DP is actually pretty strong, especially when you synergize with the new Digimon. You can turn this into a 5k rookie, which is, yeah, pretty decent. And then to round off for all the rookies, 3 copies of the other Commandramon that has Decoy from EX3, so that it sort of gives you another extra layer of protection, kind of similar to the newer Commandramon with its inheritable, but this one just straight out itself has the Decoy for effects for when it comes to anything that deletes things, so really, really good to have in some clutch situations. Moving into level 4s, we got 4 copies of High Commandramon. Now, one really important thing that I do want to point out first is that it has this new text where it says rule. This name is also treated as Commandramon. And it's really interesting because it is a level 4 that digivolves for 2 on top of a black level 3, but it has the when attacking, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You get to play 1 card with D-Brigade or Digipolice trait if all play costs are 3 or less among them without playing its memory cost, and then you bottom deck the rest of the cards. Now, this sometimes is going to synergize very nicely, especially when it comes to your BT4 Commandramon, because itself is considered as a Commandramon itself when it's named, so you get to potentially play it as well, which is really nice. And then otherwise, its inheritable is exactly the same as the brand new Commandramon with its all turns protection when this Digimon will leave the battle area. Other than by one of your own effects, you get to delete one of your other Digimon with D-Brigade in its traits to prevent it from leaving play. Then we have 4 copies of this brand new Numemon, which may be a little bit unusual, but is actually a Digipolice in this particular deck. And it has a lot of important synergy because it has an on-play and when digivolving effect by placing 1 Satsuki from your hand as this Digimon's bottom Digivolution card. One of your Digimon gains rush for the turn. Really important because Satsuki is a main dedicated tamer of this particular deck, which you want to get access to because she gives you a lot of value when it comes to your combos as well, which we'll talk about more later on. And it's inheritable, very simple. You just get blocker out there. This guy has 3 cost to hard play as well, which is really nice. So it's almost like a pseudo rookie in the early stages of the game too. And then to round up for level 4s, I like to play 2 copies of the Sealstramon right here, just because it gives jamming itself, but mainly for its inheritable. Sometimes that your turn once returned when you play another Digimon with D-Brigade in its its traits, it gains rush for the turn once per turn, which is kind of neat. You can sneak in extra attack when you build a stack with this particular guy, with its inheritable, so pretty clutch sometimes. Moving into our level 5s, we got 4 copies of this brand new D-Brigade DigiPolice card, which is Cargodramon. It has an on-play and when digivolving effect, revealing the top 3 cards of your deck. You get to play 1 card with D-Brigade or DigiPolice trait and a play cost of 4 or less among them without paying the memory cost. Now the last part of this effect is to trash the rest, which is great for setting up for your combos later on too, and it has a inheritable of all turns once per turn. When one of your other Digimon is deleted, you get to reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and play 1 Commandramon among them without paying the memory cost and then trash the rest. You can play Commandramon, you can play High Commandramon as well, which is really neat, which is your main go-to level 5 of the deck. And then of course, bringing back up the older one, we still want to play at least 2 copies of Tankdramon right here, just really good as well as the secondary level 5, because when digivolving, it helps you let you play more D-Brigade Digimons as well, with play cost 5 or less among them as well for free, trashing the rest as well. And then its inheritable is really neat because once you build into your higher level stack, your turn once per turn, when one of your Digimon with D-Brigade traits attacks, you get to reveal the top 2 cards of your deck, play a Commandramon, and then trashing the rest as well. So again, keeping a lot of Commandramon cycling again and again is always really nice for sure. Did you guys know that I actually posted the first draft version of this deck already on the AVAULT Club membership? So if you guys ever want to see deck lists before anyone else and updated versions on everything I play afterwards too, definitely join, and I really appreciate the support. Definitely subscribe, turn on that notification bell as well, give this video a like, and I really appreciate the support, so thank you guys. But anyways, let's now continue and get into our level 6s, the brand new boss Digimon, the brand new D-Brigade King right here. We got 4 copies of Brigadramon, which is really cool. And it's 4 cost to digivolve, 12,000 DP, really strong. It has a when digivolving effect. You delete up to 7 play cost or less total amount of your opponent's Digimon, which is kind of nice. So you can pop whiteboards, you can get rid of floodgates as well, smaller things, and potentially sometimes like a level 4 and a level 5 too even, which is really cool. It has an opponent's turn. All your Digimon with D-Brigade in its traits gain blocker. So really good defense setup right there, where you no longer really need to sort of worry about sort of having to play defense in your lower end, because this guy just gives everything a blocker and you can set up a huge wall of them to stop your opponent's attacks. Now the main key thing is its end of turn once per turn effect, which is its last part, where revealing the top 3 cards of your deck, you get to play up to 7 play costs or less worth of D-Brigades or DigiPolice cards among them without paying the memory cost, and then you trash the rest. You can even play your Tamers, you can even play your Commandramons. You want to flood your board, you can even potentially play a Cargodramon or a Tankdramon, which is really, really neat. So then you can continue and keep your board afloat and keep it strong all the time. And yeah, really, really cool card. Love how it resembles and looks almost like a Wargreymon or like a variation of it. Yeah, just a really cool card again, for sure. And then for our secondary level 6, I still like to play 1 copy of the older Dramon from BT4, just because you can always sneak in for extra rush attack if you have 3 memory to do so, and then you can always make a very quick clutch play. And again, to cycle back some D-Brigades with its synergy, with its on-play effect to gain memory back and whatnot. Moving into Tamers, we got 4 copies of Satsuki, which I talked about a little bit earlier, and she is your main dedicated tamer of the DigiPolice and the D-Brigade archetype, the brand new card right here, which is really crucial. Just like all other Tamers, it has a security effect which lets you play it for free when you hit it in security. And then at the start of the main phase, if your opponent has a Digimon, you immediately gain a memory. And how you mind link with her is by tucking her underneath one of your Digimon that is Numemon or Monzemon in its name, or Digipolice in its traits, and then they'll gain these a bunch of inheritables that are underneath her. All turns, when this Digimon has Numemon or Monzemon in its name, or Digipolice in its traits, it gains jamming and reboot, and then at the end of the turn, you get to play it back out for free. So just so you guys know, it might be a little bit confusing at start, but really what it means is that you get to tuck this underneath as your sort of like bottom Digivolution source of one of your Digimon to give it an inheritable for the entire turn, and at any end of turn effects, either yours or your opponent's, you get to put her back out so you can set up for combos and continue cycling and keeping a good resources so that you can give your Digimon jamming and reboot for offensive and defensive strategies at the same time, which is really, really good and really crucial for the deck too, to help it excel when it comes to your plays. And of course, I'll talk about it more in the combo segment and show you guys how it works exactly just like that. But yes, let's now move into our options. 4 copies of defense training right here. Really, really important staple for most decks these days. You get to search with it, you get to delay and digivolve and build your stack very quickly with it as well. You guys know how powerful these cards really are, so definitely maximize your copies with it here. Then we got 2 copies of Black Memory Boost. Now, there's also an argument of sometimes playing Pride Memory Boost, which I actually don't play in this deck. Now, the main reason why I'm trying to play Black Memory Boost instead is, first and foremost, it does cost a little bit less memory to sort of activate and use, but also mainly, I'm really trying to focus on building and finding my stack pieces more so than actually playing the lower end cards by trying to spit out as many Commandramons as possible. And yes, there are actually two main ways to sort of play this deck, where you can focus more on the low end, or you can focus a bit more on the top end at the same time, depending on which you prefer. And I prefer to focus on my top end to get into Brigadramon as soon as possible, and therefore Black Memory Boost helps a lot because it guarantees me to find those pieces a little bit more consistent compared to Pride Memory Boost. But we'll talk more about Pride Memory Boost later on as well. And then for removal options, we got 2 copies of DCD Bomb. Some people play between 2 to 3 copies of this card right here. For 4 costs with its main, it de-digivolves one of your opponent's Digimon. Then by returning 3 cards with D-Brigade or DigiPolice from your trash back to the top of your deck, you can delete up to your opponent's Digimon with 6 play cost or less in total, or even multiple Digimon, which is really neat and really nice, really great for setup, really good removal. Again, really nice card. And talking about removal, still one of the best removal cards in the game. 2 copies of Ultimate Flare here to round off to de-digivolve 3 and then pop everything that your opponent has that are Digimon that are 3 play costs or less afterwards too, to get rid of big stacks and big bodies at the same time too. Alright, tech choices. For as another level 5 that you can play, you have Vademon right here, which has an on play or when digivolving effect. You reveal your opponent's top 3 cards of your deck, and you de-digivolve 1 for every Digimon card revealed, which is very interesting. Then return the revealed cards to the bottom of their deck. So this is kind of neat because as a secondary level 5, you can sort of give this deck a little bit more extra removal with de-digivolving. And because of that effect, I can see why some people like to play this card, but I personally don't, just because it doesn't synergize with the traits of DigiPolice or D-Brigade at all. So you can't really do as much compared to your Cargadramon and your Tankdramon. Then of course there's the other Darkdramon to talk about from EX3, which is a really nice one-off tech that you guys can also include because of its potential of digivolving for almost 0 cost essentially. And then of your turn, once your turn you play in a Digimon with D-Brigade and its traits, you get to delete one of your opponent's Digimon that has a play cost equal to or less of what you played and unsuspend this Digimon. So really good applications here and there, which is kind of nice. So definitely tech this one in if you guys prefer as well here and there. As for other level 7 options that you guys can play, which this deck currently doesn't have, you can definitely play Quartzmon or even DeathXmon depending on the meta, depending on what you want to try and counter, or if you really want to just have like some generic level 7 top end to go over Brigadramon when you really need to do so. So these are some really good choices. Quartzmon to suspend everything down and not let your opponent play. DeathX for removal, but also having its own play cost type of thing of reduction so that you can play it potentially for much lower to get rid of wide boards, counter against wide boards at the same time too, is always really nice. So choose on whichever you guys prefer too. If you guys want a memory tamer, Izzy is still really good because it has a lot of synergy when it comes to rearranging the top of your deck. You play mainly black cards in this deck anyway, so you're always going to be gaining that memory back. So it's effectively a 3 cost memory tamer, which is really good value there. So again, really nice card too. And of course, as for other options, we talked about Pride Memory Boost earlier. The reason why I don't play this is because I like to focus a little bit more on the top end and stack building, but if you guys want to focus more on the Rookie Rush or sort of like lower end strategy, Pride Memory Boost is still really good to go for if you want to play more Commandramon out for free. Then we have other removal options here, such as Trident Arm and DG Dimension, just to de-digivolve more other than just playing Ultimate Flare. Really depends on what kind of bombs you guys want to utilize. Trident Arm is really good because you do have blockers in your deck, so you can even force your opponents to attack and then block with it afterwards. DG Dimension is really good for wider board removal compared to Ultimate Flare. And then of course, as another standard removal, Iron Fist and Onslaught to delete everything that your opponent has with the Digimon with the highest play cost as well. So pretty neat kind of options. So juggle between on which one you guys prefer as you will. Alright, combos. First, let's talk about the opening hand that you really want to see. D-Brigade and DigiPolice is actually really nice because it's very hard to sort of get a bricky hand unless your hand is full of like level 6s. There's a lot of low cost stuff that you're just really looking for. So cards like Commandramons that you want to see, cards like Black Memory Boost, Defense Training, Satsuki, Numemon, you know, seeing multiple of these, you have a lot of wide range of plays when it comes to, you know, either going first or second even with this deck, which is always really fantastic. So of course, when you see your Commandramons, you would hatch your egg. Ideally, you would digivolve actually these ones in the back and sort of like play around the memory gauge depending on what you have. What you really want to then do with this particular new one is hard play it most of the time so that you can cycle through the top 5 cards of your deck, grab pieces you need, and plan ahead whether you want to be bottom decking or putting it back in the top in whichever order. So these are really crucial pieces to sort of identify. As you're sort of revealing the top, you might want to see some of your building pieces, you might want to see your high Commandramons, your Cargodramons, even your Brigadramons, even more Commandramons, Satskis. These are really important decisions you have to keep making throughout the game, which does make this deck a little bit challenging, but don't worry, as I'm going through it, it will help you guys understand a little bit more. So really, that's the fun part. You're gonna have to plan ahead and decide what you want to do and know what you want to do in the next turn and sort of stick to it as well for what you have depending on your hand too. Defense training, great. Black Memory Boost, standard cards that you always want to play to continue searching. You really want to find a combination of Numemon and Satsuki at the same time. A really neat thing is you can sometimes Digivolve for 2 Numemon, use a defense training if you will, to sort of then, immediately tuck a Satsuki underneath. But because of how cheap Numemon is, you actually just want to hard play it for 3 and then immediately put Satsuki underneath. If you ever pass turn to your opponent to 1 or something, you can immediately just tuck away the Satsuki back like here. So that's how you get to play your Satsuki for free virtually with Numemon. Now, how you really want to be doing the mind link stuff is that at the start of your main, you gain a memory because, you start at 2, whatever, something like that. And then immediately during your main, now it doesn't have to be start of your main. You can do it anytime throughout the main phase. You can attack first and then do it. You can, sequence it however you will. But by doing so, you mind link it underneath, this Digimon will gain jamming. Now, also really cool with Numemon, it will give your other Digimon with Rush with its on play when Digivolving effect, which you can keep in mind to sometimes utilize, because then Numemon can actually even attack the same turn when you play with it if it's still sort of your turn. You can swing in with jamming, which is great, and then when you finish and do all your other combos, you pass your turn, and then you get the choice to either keep it there or you can put the Satsuki back underneath. Now, by keeping it there, you have reboot. So depending on the matchup and sort of what removal your opponent has, you can kind of play around it. If they try to swing over you, by having reboot, they can't swing over you anymore. And then otherwise, then you have a body to float on the board and continue attacking. But if you know they have some kind of like removal, they can get rid of it, maybe it makes more sense just to put it back away, because if they ever delete this whole stack, you lose your Satsuki, which is really, really detrimental to your deck and it slows it down by a lot. So you don't want to be seeing that. You want to decide very important decisions at the end of turn. Keep in mind, it's also at the end of your opponent's turn. So don't forget, when your opponent passes turn back to you, you definitely want to immediately put this back right here, because you can then utilize the starter main phase again to gain a memory and repeat the combo and so on. So that's really how it's like when it comes to playing Mind Link with all that kind of stuff. You push out with Commandramon and you start swinging and you keep floating and you chip away your opponent's security, and that is your win condition. At the same time, you want to be Digivolving to your stack, which is why you play defense training. You can pop it and climb through it. You can even combine Satsuki with high Commandramon like this, really neat, because you can then swing with jamming and then you get to cycle with the top 3 cards of your deck and potentially play another thing. You can play like another Commandramon, another Numemon, which can potentially tuck in another Satsuki. So the more Satsukis you have, the even better value, but you want to make sure you have the same amount of adequate bodies to match up with your Satsuki, so then you can, utilize as much jamming and rebooting as possible. Now, as you continue to follow up your combos, go into Cargodramon. Cargodramon continues to play more things. Really neat things. A lot of these cards of effects let you play a card with D-Brigade or Digipolice in its traits. Satsuki, it's a Digipolice. Not a D-Brigade, but Digipolice, so you can potentially play her for free, just like that too, which is really, really cool. And then eventually, you will go into Brigadramon, which I'd really like to go into as soon as possible. And it's totally fine. You'll be often enough to pass your turn to your opponent. After that, you can go for a combo with like Satsuki underneath, swing with Cargodramon, and then pass your turn to your opponent to go into a Brigadramon. Depending on the situation at the end of turn, if you want to push her back or not, totally up to you. But let's just say you do. And then immediately get to play more bodies, pop things, and go wide. You can even go for a really cool combo where you play another Cargodramon from the top of your deck, and then you get to play another thing afterwards to play another Commandramon, and you set up a really wide board of blockers, and you have decoy, and you have protection, which is absolutely insane. So you just want to continue to repeat this kind of combo, chip away your opponent's security, and this is when, again, planning ahead with what you reveal on your top of your deck is really important, so that every time when you play something, you guarantee yourself to play stuff. And then, of course, with the Missimon inheritable now, as later game goes, you might have add up quite a multiple of, Digipolice, Commandramons, and whatnot, and you want to continue cycle like that. You attack with it, you would place like these 3 back to the top of your deck, and then if it ever gets deleted, you get to float one back, you know, by revealing the top 3, you know exactly what the 3 cards are going to be. So you get to play a high Commandramon because his name's also counted as Commandramon, which is really neat. And then because of that, you can continue to attack. And of course, the things that your hard play can't attack immediately unless if you actually had the Sealsdramon in the Inheritable to give it rush as well, which is really cool. So you can just continue again, attack, 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 set up a wall of defense. That's what you want to do with this deck. So that's the most challenging part, again, is planning ahead, knowing your pieces, coordinating with and sequencing with your effects when you do so. And because of that, then you definitely want to be checking out the gameplay video to see all of this in action and how it all works when I pilot the deck right here. As always, definitely be sure to stay tuned for more BT14 deck profiles. Be sure to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video. It is AVAULT, signing